there is no distinction between free will and determinism. We think there is because of our conceptual confusion. At the level of what truly exists, there is no such distinction. What nature decides to do is both what it desperately wants to do and what it must do. What nature does is a result of what nature is. Nature wills what it wills because it is what it is. And it can't will otherwise without being something that it is not. Yeah. But of course, it is what it is, so it wills what it does. There is no external environment beyond nature to impose choices on nature. What nature chooses to do comes out of itself. Therefore, it comes out of its being. It's a result of what it is. So nature wills what it must will given what it is. But it does make choices. It couldn't make different choices because it isn't different. Nature is what it is and not something else. It does make choices, but its choices are a direct consequence of what it is. Yeah. So from that perspective, what nature wills is what it must. And what nature must is exactly what it wills. So there is no distinction at the level of nature between free will and determinism. And that's why we can both say, you have free will, because you're a part of nature, and nature has free will. But why does nature have free will? Because it's the same as determinism, and determinism is true. So by the same token, you could also say, everything is deterministic. Why? Because free will is true, but free will is the same thing as determinism. So everything is deterministic. That was the point that I was trying to get across. Of course, we all make choices. We are parts of nature. We make choices every day, thousands of choices every day, starting from whether you touch the ground with your left or your right foot the moment you step out of bed. The idea of determinism does not deny the obvious empirical fact that we are always making choices. What it denies is the abstraction that we call the could have been. I could have chosen differently. Then I would say you could only have chosen differently if you were different. But you were what you were. Yeah. Nature was what it was. So the could have been is an abstraction, and I think it's a fantasy.
And it helps me in a sense that the opposite of determinism is randomness, right? And as you put in your essay, that is not what we mean when we say our free will. You not say it's random. No, you mean it is determined, but it's not determined by... It's determined by what you prefer to be determined by, right? That's what you like to think. I want it to be determined about my wish to sit down here with Bernardo made me sit here down with Bernardo. But then again, it is determined, right? It's not random. So that's also where you run into philosophical problems. So I think analytically your point is very clear. I think just psychologically, we left the conversation saying that, I think we quoted Fred Matzer, and I got a question also. I mean, can you choose to disallow being played by the universe? That's sort of what rang with me.
A lot of people are not allowing themselves to be played by the universe. That, too, is a direct result of what the universe is, because those people are part of the universe. So the universe sometimes disallows itself to be played by itself. That's part of the natural unfolding of what is, what exists. It is such that this contradiction can emerge. Nature is sometimes self-contradictory. This is empirically obvious, right? And not only from a mathematical perspective, from those theorems of the 1930s, but empirically obvious as well. So the point is not that you don't choose. We all choose all the time. The point is there is no could have been. The could have been is a human fantasy. Again, the point is that everything is ultimately determined, because the people who are very much into free will, they would also reject the notion that one's choices are random, the throw of a dice. of dice. There is no meaning in that. If your choices are random, what meaning is in there? So people who are after free will because they associate with meaning, they themselves will immediately acknowledge that what they mean by it is not randomness. Yeah. Therefore, every choice is determined. The thing is, the human intuition in this regard says the following: my choices are free if they are determined by me and not by nature at large. What people who are into free will, what they mean by a free choice is that the choice they make, let's say my free will choice is a choice I make, so it is determined, but it's determined by me. It's determined by that which I identify with. I don't identify with my brain activity. I have never seen it. I identify with my conscious inner life. I identify with my preferences, my tastes, my goals, things that I experience from within. So if my choices are determined by my preferences, my tastes, my goals, then they are free will choices. Now, there are two arguments why even this doesn't hold water. One is, there is no you separate from nature. A you separate from nature or a me separate from nature is merely nominal. It's an artifact of language. It follows the structure of language, but the structure of reality is not the structure of language. Language is defined for convenience, for communication, and not to capture and reflect the ontological structure of nature. That's not what language is about. So there is no you separate from nature. There is no me separate from nature. So there is no choice I make that is determined exclusively by the linguistic me, because the me is just molecules in the ocean of nature. It's determined by nature. Another answer is, even if your choices are free in the sense of being always determined by your will, by your preferences, by your plans, who determines your will, your preferences, and your plans? Is it you? Of course not. If you could choose what you want, you would be the happiest person in the world. Whatever your circumstances, you would simply choose to want precisely the circumstances you happen to have. We don't determine those. So our will is literally not free in the sense that we can't just change our wills. We fall in love for who we fall in love. We don't choose who we fall in love with. Otherwise, we would all fall in love with the person who is available. Yeah. That's not how reality works. We don't choose our tastes. We don't choose our preferences. We don't choose even what we want to do in our lives. These things are chosen by nature.
Yeah, and I think
so. What is this business of free will? What do people mean?
I'm starting